Hello, my name is Tylluan. As you can see, my shoulder's fallen down. I'm a solitary pagan witch. I'm an author and the founder of the Wolf and Howl Press. And anybody who knows me will know that I often get into a state where I start jabbering away and then I stop after a couple of minutes and I say, oh, I forgot to say, hello, how are you? So I'm a bit like that sometimes. Anyway, today's little chat is about hurrying and being in a rush. Now, there's a very famous old poem. I remember learning a bit of it when I was a child. What is time if full of care we have no time to stand and stare, or something like that. And it's actually a very good one to take on board in a spiritual life. Now, lately I've noticed there's been a real kickback against spirituality as part of being a witch. There's an awful lot of people who think all you have to do is do a load of spells and then you call yourself a witch. And yes, if you want to do that, that's fine. But for me, there's always been a lot more to it. There's always been a sort of slightly spiritual angle. And I find that informs my magical work. But the one I'm talking about today, about hurrying, I think one of the reasons I like learning things, I like reading, I like listening to music, I like doing when I could see better, I would do things like knitting or embroidery or smocking, all sorts of things, And I liked them because they were slow and they were steady. And while your hands were active, so your mind was free to think about other things. If you were always in a rush, whether it's in a rush arguing with people on Facebook, which tends to follow on from what I was saying in the last video, or whether it's rushing because you're in a hurry. I mean, I know if you've got young children, for example, you can be in a terrible hurry trying to get them to school, get them back from school, pack their lunches, after school activities, helping them with their homework or listening to them talking about their homework, whatever it is. And you can't help it. You are in a terrible rush. And parents often feel absolutely exhausted by the end of the day, absolutely out of it, And trust me, I sometimes still feel like that. But this is why we have to try and get ourselves in order so that we don't rush when we don't have to. Some things we can't avoid. Some things, well, we've got to do something about it. And I think then you really have to start thinking, well, where can I shave off a few minutes here, a few minutes there, things like that. Because we can usually find a few minutes here and there, or we can find ways to think while we're doing other very mundane things. I mean, if you have a dishwasher, all right, I could say loading the dishwasher, but I've never loaded a dishwasher. I've never owned a dishwasher. So it might be while you're washing up at the sink, in my case. Or it might be while you're, I don't know, polishing something, which I don't do very often. Housework is not my forte, I must admit. But while you're doing ordinary things, perhaps a bit of gardening or sitting in the sunshine and reading a book or whatever, those are times when you have a few minutes to yourself and you can think. What do you think about? Well, that's entirely up to you, isn't it? I mean, it's not for me to tell you what to think about. You can think about problems you might have, situations that really will need resolving, or you can just be thinking about things generally. You can be thinking about something you've read, something you've heard, something you've listened to, anything really. But try not to be in a rush. I mean, I sometimes think, when you listen to people going past in a car and you hear their music and it's driving beat, boom, boom, boom. And I'm sure they love it, and it's not for me to argue with it, but also this driving beat is a bit like sending someone into battle. It's got a slightly aggressive element to it. And really, if you can, you want to be able to get that out of your life when you don't need it. I mean, there may be times when you need something to fire you up so you can go off into battle, but there are also times when you really, really don't. So anyway, it's just a thought. Try and make the most of quiet times. Try and shave a few minutes here and there. just to give yourself time, because it's surprising. You can make a few minutes and it does make a difference to your life. It calms you down. That's very important when you're thinking of casting a spell or something. You really don't want to be thinking of things that get you all riled up and angry. It's not going to be a very good spell if you do that. Trust me, it isn't. I know a lot of people say, oh, you've got to get wound up, you know. Well, you have to get focused, certainly. But wound up, not so much. Anyway, I'll leave you with that little thought. And thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.